Hey folks, was it love bombing or was it power, dominion, and control that sucked so many seemingly intelligent people into Chad Daybell's Church of the Firstborn? And did that ideology lead to determining who was righteous and who was evil? That casting process that seems to have led to death. Well, hey, folks, welcome to Profiling Evil. I mean, I've been glued to these tweets, reports, and commentary coming out on the Lori Daybell murder trial that's going on in Boise, Idaho. I'm in Wells right now, but I took a few moments to join Judge Ashley on Court TV to talk about the Doomsday Mom cult murder case. Now, please, folks, hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell. You know, we focused our exploration tonight on one of the reasons people seem to join cults, the love bomb. Now, there are other reasons, and cult leaders are pros at figuring out where particular weaknesses in new recruits exist. The strategy can be entirely different with each individual. Now, the word cult really seems to shake us up. In its simplest definition, a cult is most often a group of like-minded people with a devotion toward a particular individuals or objects. Now, in this case, it seems like originally Lori, that cult was driving her toward Chad Daybell. And then fuel and fire came together and people were looking to the two of them for guidance. There are very benign things that might be considered to be a cult. I mean, think about how fanatical people are about their favorite sports team, a musician, or your old alma mater. The important thing is to think about the group and whether the byproduct of the group is positive or destructive. And that's what I want to talk about is destructive cult behaviors. Now, Judge Ashley and I spoke about this subject in relationship to the Lori Daybell case and the cult that she, Chad, and many of the followers were a part of. Let's listen in on that discussion.
Now remember, Lori Vallow is on trial for the deaths of her two children and for the death of her fifth husband's late wife, Tammy Daybell. Joining me now to discuss, we have retired police commander and religious cult expert Mike King. Mike, thank you so much for joining me. You know, I think yes, happy to have you. I think part of the issue that we have is so many people hear about this and it feels so unreal, contrived, made up when you hear about a cult. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think we all feel that way, and it's really frustrating because we think I would never join a cult, but all the experts agree that cults are filled with people who are really, in most cases, intelligent. They don't want some galump that doesn't know how to do things that isn't going to bring value to the cult. And so they seek out, at that perfect moment in time, people who are at a crisis. It may be the love bombing that they give them that does the difference. It might be for a mom with children who's gone through a divorce and has no way to take care of her children, security by giving them a home or something else. And as we listened to that testimony, it was so interesting because she talked about this search and separate process. As different as these cults would like to be, they all seem to be so much alike when it comes to the behaviors of wanting to separate them from the system that would tell them these are norms, these are the things that regular people do, and they offer them all kinds of promises of greatness and tell them you got to sacrifice everything that you once knew in order to attain this.
Mike, I loved your description of love bombing and some of the tools and techniques they use.
Well, the judge then wanted me to explore some of these ideas of how seemingly intelligent people can believe things like Charles Vallow being a demon. Well, in this example, Lori's former friend, April Raymond, shares how she tried to reconcile what she knew was right and wrong with this captivating and often convincing line that Daybells were sharing.
So I want to listen to her calling Charles a demon, what Lori had to say, and then I want to come back and discuss with you and find out how, in your experience, can you figure out if it's really a cult or if it is one that they act like is but isn't. So let's listen to this together.
When she said Charles was no longer Charles, how was that connected to her talking about separating from Charles?
Sure. So she had said that Charles was already dead and that there was a demon living inside him and kind of using his body as a host, and that the demon's name was Ned Snyder.
Did you follow up on that? Did she give you any sort of evidence of this?
When I asked, how do you know that it's not Charles? She said, because he's shorter.
All right, so Mike, listening to some of what Lori has said, are you able to discern whether or not they truly believed what they were saying, that they believed they're part of this cult, that they believed they were doing God's calling?
You know, sometimes I think back when I was a kid and we would get together, even when somebody would pull out a Ouija board and everybody would get so ramped up off of each other and feed off of each other and start to imagine things that were going on. I think the thing that's so significant on this one, Judge, is the fact that she can say, hey, he's an evil spirit and his name's Nick or Ned or whatever they came up with. But here's the deal. If he were truly an evil spirit and she had rid the world, she would have been on a rooftop screaming, hey, I got rid of this zombie, I got rid of this person. But the weird thing about these cults and these cult leaders is I think they understand what society standards are, that you don't go kill your husband. And so they have to come up with some cockamamie story, some belief system, and it's a whole lot easier to say God told me to do it than to say, you know what, I'm a little bit dinged up here, and I'm going to decide to just get rid of him because I don't like him in my life anymore.
You know, I often quote Dr. Margaret Singer, who said, cults know that if we knew from the get-go what we were in for and why, we would never join. It's as simple as that. So the question becomes, why? When cult members set out to recruit others, they start by talking about legitimate current events. They focus on areas where the recruit has interests, things like politics, survival skills, or doomsday ideologies. Now, this forms a fabricated bond, a place where they hope they can build upon for the future. In many cases, it's some time before the real purpose of the cult, the belief system, is revealed. And it's only after the cult can determine their level of success by being exposed with those kinds of ideologies. Many cults try to instill a sense of fear and paranoia and remind new recruits that they're often experiencing conflicting emotions and that it's normal. But this is a sign of the devil, according to the cult, to keep them away from knowing the truth. It's called a search and separate program. And this simple tactic helps the cult maintain control. And it prevents the recruit from seeking help from trusted, reasonable sources. It keeps them from thinking logically. And as long as they can keep them from thinking logically, they have a better chance of recruiting these people into cults. Almost always, cults will try to get new recruits to social gatherings with other cult members where they can love bomb them. That's where they overwhelm the new recruit with a sense of worth and attention. And new recruits will often say they felt more loved than even with family members. So as we explore these tactics, our conversation turned to whether these followers actually believe and become so interested that they're going to commit crimes and follow these leaders. The simple answer is there's overwhelming evidence where cult members have committed crimes in the name of whatever God they're following. But in our discussion, I offered a little different point of view based on the fact that their behavior and actions might suggest two different belief systems. Let's watch this.
And can that be the motive? Can the cult, the religious beliefs, be the motive if, in fact, Lori Vallow Daybell and or Chad Daybell are convicted of murder or conspiracy to commit murder? Could the motive simply be because of their religious beliefs?
I think they can try to blame things on their religious belief. But again, I go back to, we have all these different pieces of evidence that are forensic, physical, some admissions, but the behavioral evidence is what's really telling. And the level of secrecy, the fact that only special people get to know these things, and then these decisions are made in a vacuum. And anyone who would challenge, I would suspect within that group, would have been ostracized in a painful, emotional way that would have kept them in line. Could they claim that, yeah, God told me to do it? Absolutely. And of course, that's been a defense over the years, I guess, is the devil made me do it. The difference is the behavior when it happened and after. And that's the thing to me that is so significant, is that they tried to hide it after the fact. And if you truly believed it was something you were supposed to do and that God sanctioned it, I don't believe you'd be saying, I don't know anything.
Wow, that is so insightful and gives us some idea of why perhaps they haven't said what happened.
Well, as our discussion came to a close, Judge Ashley asked me about the motivation in writing my book, Deceived, an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult. I hope you'll all pick that thing up. And I want to remind you that the proceeds are going to build a children's advocacy center. They're not lining my pockets. We're doing this to try to help children who have been victimized. Let's watch.
I want to ask you in the time we have left, just if you would, there's a book that you've written and it's Profiling Evil, Deceived. Tell us if you had to say the main point of that book or your main takeaway that you want people to know about cults in your investigation, what would it be?
Well, in this particular case, a predatory pedophile built a religion to justify sexually assaulting children at the amount of thousands of rapes of children over the course of time before we were able to break them down. And that's something that's key with these destructive cults, is they will twist ideologies. They'll twist a verse in scripture or a single word within a statement that people have held on to as truthful, and then make it something to justify what they're doing.
Is there any way to determine if, in fact, this was religious beliefs cult, if Chad or Lori was the main instigator or the leader?
Well, I think when you look at the characteristics of cults, you look at what the leadership structure is, and I think it's pretty darn clear that people were looking to Lori and Chad as leaders. And some people say it was Chad, some people say it was Lori. Well, you know what? There was independent thinking. When it comes to numbering people of whether they're dark or light, well, they can say Lori made that decision at the end, but Chad came up with the idea in the beginning. So I think you got to look at them both.
All right, great information. Mike, quickly, what is the name of your podcast?
It's Profiling Evil. Would love to have anybody come over. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. We appreciate you joining us, sharing all of your legal expertise.
Folks, what are your thoughts on this particular video? I mean, we're going to continue to explore cult behaviors as we try to make sense of what's going on. And I hope you'll check out the Chad and Lori Daybell story map. Hey folks, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and I want to just take a quick minute to remind you about the Chad and Lori Daybell story map. You can find it at profilingevil.com under story maps, and I hope you'll go over and visit it. It gives you a chance to go through and kind of explore this case from beginning to end. Has all kinds of information about those first hearings, about what happened. But then I think one of the things that's pretty dang cool is it goes in and it talks about them individually. Not only has an overview, but it has a way to check out more about Lori, her former husbands, where she lived, Chad and his former wife, Tammy, and the circumstances leading up to her death. You can learn more about what light and dark is, according to them, and actually hear Chad speaking at one of those Preparing a People conferences. You can go into other family members like Stacy Cope, Joseph Ryan, Charles Vallow, Alex Cox, JJ and Tylee. You can look at the court processes, and you can get a little more information about Profiling Evil. So again, I hope you'll go back and check that out. Now let's get back to the program. Hey, make sure you've hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. and consider joining our channel memberships. My favorite is the Academy level, where you get a whole lot more information for just a little bit more. And your financial contribution really helps us to sustain the channel. Hey folks, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course here on YouTube. You can also find Profiling Evil on your favorite podcast platform. So please share us with your friends. And thanks again for all of your support. From here in the United Kingdom, I hope you'll have a great day, and we'll see you all soon at the next crime scene.